Well, welcome everybody. Nice, over 100 people here in attendance already, and more rolling in every minute. Thanks everyone for joining us for another CMX Masterclass. These are we're doing them about once a month, sometimes more than once a month. I'm going to talk about some of the events we have coming up soon, but these have been an awesome opportunity to go deep with incredible experts like the expert we have today, Nisha, on different topics. All, sometimes it's very specific on a community strategy or community program. Sometimes it's broad. Like last week, we had an inspirational speaker. What's his name? David. What's his last name? Blanking on his last name. Not me. It wasn't me. It's a good first name. But just go watch it. The recording's all on the CMX YouTube. Incredible speaker. And so our agenda for today, we're going to welcome you all now. We're going to kick off the master class with Nisha, and then we're going to do a live Q&A for 15 minutes. We'll wrap up and hopefully have you all out of here by the end of the hour. Our CMX values, which we try to bring to every event and every community space that we organize. Number one is to be generous. This community is incredible because of the generosity in it, of members showing up and helping each other out, mentoring each other, answering questions for each other, supporting each other. So if you see an opportunity to help someone who's struggling or stuck in this community, in this event today, please raise your hand and volunteer to help them out. Number two is to be groundbreaking. We are building an industry here. The community industry is blowing up now. When we started CMX almost 8 years ago, it was very nascent, and now it's growing quickly. And just very proud of the work that this community has done over the years to shape this industry, and it's up to us to continue to shape it. So keep pushing the boundaries and keep challenging each other to create new things and help make this industry better. And third, be actively inclusive. We really want this to be a community where everyone feels welcome, everyone feels safe, everyone feels seen, and we can't be passive about inclusivity. We have to take an active role. So help us by making sure that other voices are represented, give space to other voices to be heard. If you see anything that, seems concerning, please let us know. You can shoot us a DM anytime, but take an active role in including other members. CMX Masterclasses, just a little bit about what these are about. Like I said, they're deep dives into very specific subjects. So we have CMX Summit, we have lots of different events, but the master classes are meant to go really deep on one topic. We have expert talk classes on all different ranges of experience levels over the course of the year. So keep coming back and checking out different events. And our goal is always to give you very actionable advice. We want you to walk away from this talk with something that you can apply today. Our goals as CMX at CMX events are to help you connect. So hopefully you come away from this event meeting at least one person that you can follow up with and continue to support each other. Use the chat liberally, get to know each other. We want you to take away at least one actionable thing that you can implement today. And finally, we want to grow the community industry with all these events. So hopefully each event brings new people in, and we're helping bring more awareness and more buy-in for the community industry. This event is being hosted on our own event platform called Bevy. Bevy is a really cool event platform that you can power all of your virtual conferences, virtual meetups, virtual classes like this one. But you can also empower your community members to self-organize their own chapters and their own events. So it's really the only event platform that's specifically built for communities. If you're interested in checking out Bevy, you can go to bevy.com and book a demo, or again, just DM me, Beth, or Ivan here in the chat. You can hit DMs on the top right, and we'll be happy to tell you more about the platform. A couple upcoming events that we have, just so you can put it on your calendar now. Number one is the CMX Unconference. Very, very excited for this event, which is being led by CMX community member Jessica Falkenthal. This was a huge hit at CMX Summit, where we empower the community to choose topics that you want to discuss, and then you go into groups to be able to go deep onto all this different range of topics. So it's literally an event that you get to create the content at, and that's happening on October 27th, and it's a half-day event, 3 hours. Add it to your calendars. It's going to be awesome. Yep. So those of you who were there at the summit, you know how awesome that went. That was like one of the highest rated whole sessions of the entire event for us. And on November 11th, we have how to balance community growth versus engagement. Really awesome session with Colin. That, you know, well, that's always a big question with community. We want to grow, but we don't want to do that at the sacrifice of building an authentic and engaged community. And so join us on November 11th from 12 to 1 Pacific. All right, without further ado, we have today's session, the incredible Nisha Baxi from Gong, who's going to be walking us through her 90-day plan for how to build an incredible community. Nisha is a results-oriented global marketing leader. She specializes in building relationships and cultivating strong communities. She spent over a decade marketing to developer audiences and startups and is currently the head of community at Gong, which is an incredible tool for sales, but also we use it for community. Actually, I highly recommend you all check it out as well. She is deeply passionate about smart and fast growth through evangelism and communication. She also sits on the board of directors for the American Red Cross in Silicon Valley. I'm a huge personal fan of Nisha. I'm very excited for this event. So please join me in giving a huge round of applause by pasting as many of your favorite emoji in the chat as possible, and welcome Nisha to the stage.
Goodness gracious, what an introduction. Well, let's see if I can do that lovely intro justice. And thank you so much, David, for the intro, and also for the rest of the CMX team for inviting me. I guess I just want to say before I get started that you're here because you want to learn how to launch a community if you haven't already. I personally was very intimidated to launch my own online community. And when I was approached by CMX, like, hey, are you interested in doing this masterclass? I thought, well, I don't know if I'm a master, but I just did it. And I know that there are so many people that could learn from my experiences. So I just wanted to share with you all everything that I learned and break it down into some sort of framework. Never done this presentation before, so would absolutely love your feedback. My presentation is here, you are here, so I'll kind of be rotating between the two. And then, so right now it's 9:12. I'm going to give myself until 9:45 so we can have some room for Q&A. Does that sound good for everyone? Yay, ball of twine, so awesome. All right. So if you're wondering, what does the Gong community look like? Here it is. We use the Incited platform. There was a number of reasons that we decided to go with Incited. I actually wasn't part of the conversations, but the team actually made a wonderful choice. And I can chat more about anyone who's interested in that topic. But namely, we were able to use this wonderful Gong, what I like to call Google for Gong, which is federated search, which connects to Zendesk and Skilljar. So this is a customer community. If you're trying to go to community.gong.io and you can't get in, you can only get in if you're a customer. And if you are a customer, please feel free to dig around, and I'd love to get your feedback. All right, let's move forward here. How to launch a community in 90 days. I call it from keys to castle, from the time I got the keys to Incited to actually it being live to all of our customers was actually 72 days. There was less than, my team actually spent quite a bit of time before I even joined sort of preparing for that to happen. So I'll also share what that process looked like. Just a little bit about me. I was raised in the Silicon Valley. I was born in Texas, moved here when I was 10 years old. I'm sitting in Mountain View, sunny but windy Mountain View, California. It's getting cold here. And I was running a commute like many of you, and I'll share this story, and you'll all probably in the chat say +1. But I just kind of plopped into this profession. I didn't I was running an entrepreneurship meetup group for fun. And I grew that community. I acquired the community from a friend who was running it. I think there was like 1,000 or 2,000 people, and it was already a pretty big community. And then over the course of 8 years, I expanded that community to 15,000 people. And it was basically just like a startup demo day. It was before there was TechCrunch Disrupt. It was before, demo days and all those types of things. And as someone from Microsoft approached me and said, like, hey, do you want to do this as a full-time job? And we have an opening in developer platform evangelism, and we're looking for someone to like help build, developer communities in the United States. And I was like, sure, I'll do that. So I did that for 5 years. And, I had the distinct pleasure of being able to work in and around developer communities for over a decade now at Microsoft and Facebook and Salesforce. Even had a stint for about a year being head of marketing at a Series B startup. And now I get to do my passion full-time at Gong as their head of community. Okay, now you know enough about me. Okay, so why am I doing this talk? So there's 139 people. Everyone's like, maybe you have a 9:30 or you just want to see if this is interesting to you. If you have to hop off, take a screenshot of this. I think this is really what the essence of the talk is really about, is just, the secrets. Like, community is about helping people. And the way that this entire talk is set up is, getting how to get set up for community success, how to be successful, also how to get set up for business success. Maybe we want to make sure you get your goals on. And then also for personal success. And that's why you're all here today. Like, you've really taken the first step in identifying that you just need more resources, more material. And you probably need a pep talk. So if you ever need a pep talk, feel free to ping me. I'm really good at those. And then, of course, just like sitting down and just getting it done, which is like always the hardest thing, is just forcing yourself in a room and saying, I'm just going to build this thing. All right. So here's some fun Gong community stats. We launched the community on July 21st, and 2 months after that, so which wasn't long ago, just a few weeks ago, we reached our 1,000 community members. And I believe in celebrating major milestones. So I'm just really excited about that. And then 72 days, which I told you about, from keys to castle, that took 72 days. And also, you all, if you're not already going through this right now, you'll know that there were so many people cross-functionally that you have to work with in order to make the community a success. And I counted, by the time we launched the community, I had talked to 100 people internally that had actually done an action to help us launch the community. And so, that's a really big feat, and I'm just really excited about that. And it's one operating principle, which I love at Gong, called Win as a Team. So about Gong, if you don't know what Gong is, at a very high level, Gong is a revenue intelligence platform that basically captures interactions across like web conferencing, calls, dialers, emails, all of that, analyzes all of that information and data, and then basically delivers those insights so that you can take a meaningful action at a team level. We have a lot of companies that are using it for sales. I actually joined Gong because I was a Gong customer, and I was running marketing at a startup, and I needed Gong so that I could understand how people were messaging and positioning our product. So I was able to listen in on prospect calls and on customer calls without actually being on the call, and get those insights to continue to develop our content in our community strategy. Okay, here's the pep talk you were all waiting for. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. Oh, I should have put like claps in between. I think that a lot of times we want something to be so perfect that we take a lot more time than we necessarily need to make something happen. And, my personal motto, and I think this also comes from working at several startups and small startups over the years, is just get it done as soon as possible, ship and iterate, MVP it, which is minimum viable product. If you're not in startup land, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you just ship it, you can always make tweaks and changes. Where the way that I launched the community in July, the company already went through a rebrand last week. If you saw that on LinkedIn, and I had to change the way that it looked, and it was totally fine. So as soon as you know that you want to build a community, try to execute as quickly as possible, because once the company has decided that you want to build a community, right away, that's when you already have a lot of people thinking about it. It's already on top of mind for executives, and you want to make sure to keep that flywheel going. We don't want to lose steam. Okay, so today, I'll share with you what you'll need. I'll share with you a framework and then break down the framework. We'll also have Q&A at the end, and I'll also share some of the resources that I use to get started. All righty. Okay, so what you'll need. I was a Girl Scout until I was 18 years old, and I was too old to be a Girl Scout anymore, and they basically kicked me out of the program. But be prepared is the motto of scouting, both Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. And so this is what you definitely need. You need a roadshow deck. You need, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. You're going to need an internal core team. So I am the head of marketing at Gong, but I don't have a team yet. So what I needed was to get people excited internally that I knew that I would need their buy-in for the community. And I created a bulldog team. So at Microsoft, we called that a V team. At Salesforce, we called it a tiger team. But since we're Gong and Bruno the bulldog is like a mascot of sorts, I called it a bulldog team. Also, you want to be constantly sharing updates. So I would send out a newsletter every month, even if it wasn't launched yet. I just wanted people to know what we were doing. And so I had a newsletter that I would share internally every single month. And also you want a place to share those updates. So in Slack, I also had a Slack channel that people could opt into. And while I was going on the roadshow, I would tell them about the Slack channel so that they could keep up to date on what was going on in the community. Also, this is really important, and this is why CMX is awesome, is you need your own community board of advisors. You might know lots of people in community already, and if you do, good on you. And you might not know that many people. When I joined, I had a few, when I joined Gong, I think I had a couple of like good friends that I knew that I could reach out to. Jessica Langston at Salesforce is like one of my dearest friends, and she runs the Trailblazer community. And I had some other friends, Sophia Rodriguez, like all from Salesforce, but I wanted to make friends with other people outside and just learn from them. And so, I got connected through friends of friends or in CMX. Like I was in Slack and I messaged a couple people that I thought were really interesting. I met some wonderful people through the Inspired community. So that's Insighted's community, and chatted with some wonderful people there. And then I established my Gong community board of advisors. I don't know if you can see this, but I've listed the names of some of these wonderful folks on here. And anytime I have any question, because there's not really a playbook for everything, and I don't have my own team internally, and I needed to bounce ideas off of someone, then that's what I would do, is I would talk to those folks. Of course, you need an internal champion. And I am so lucky and to be brought into a role where there was already an internal champion, and that was our chief customer officer, Iran Aloni. And I'll share with him. I actually wanted him to be in this masterclass today. He wasn't able to make it, but he did. I did get to interview him and ask him what he was able to do to get executive buy-in before I joined, and what are the things that you can do if you're looking to get executive buy-in as well. Cool. So also, this is where good study skills are important. So like, shout out to mom and dad. I know you're not on this. Maybe you'll listen to this one day. But I think that having good study skills is a really important thing in building a community, because you have to be focused and you have to be organized. And I'll share a little bit more of my methodology on how I was able to actually sit down and build the community. And of course, what you always need in life, and while building a community, especially as a community manager, is a can-do attitude, because a lot of times things aren't going to work, and you just have to say, well, shucks, that didn't work, but I'll find a way to make it happen. And that's where, your community board of advisors comes in. That's where your bulldog team comes in, and everyone. Well, the world will conspire to make everything happen for you. And if that still doesn't feel like it's happening, call me, or call David, or call Beth. We will help you make it happen. Or I think Remco is on the call. He's a really good inspirer as well. All right, starting with how to make things happen. This is very broad, but it is very real, is plan the work, then work the plan. Has anyone heard this before? I heard this a couple of years ago. And then whenever I get stressed out, I just tell myself, plan the work, then work the plan. And for me, that was everything. And let me share with you how I planned the work and then what I actually did to work the plan. So this is my plan. 7 steps, very simple. Seems like, well, I already know all of this, and you do. And that's why you need this class, is to reinforce that you already know how to do all of this. Intuitively, if you've ever managed any kind of program ever, and everyone's had some kind of project, big project that they've done, this is what happens. You basically lay the foundation, you talk to people to see if this is interesting. Then you internally champion people, you get people excited and rally about a cause. Then once you've done all of that hard work, then you just build and launch the community, and then you tell people about it. Super duper simple. KISS. I think this is a Navy. I think this comes from the Navy, but keep it simple, stupid, but you're not stupid. Keep it simple, superstar. That's what I like. You got this. Don't worry about it. You can get this done. You have all these resources that will help you make this possible. Meet Iran. This is my manager. He is the chief customer officer at Gong. He is an advisor to several Silicon Valley startups. He's been in the industry for decades. He was also in Israeli intelligence for a decade. He is just like an amazing overall guy. And he believes more than anything in giving his team autonomy. I'm lucky that community at Gong is at the level where I report directly to him. Community is its own function, and his manager is the president and COO of Gong. So what that means is that community is already in and of itself a really important initiative at the company. And because we have a seat at the table, it gives us the flexibility and the autonomy to do really important and meaningful, impactful work from the get-go. So Iran's not here, but I did just want to splash some nuggets of golden wisdom of the Iran with all of you. So I sat down with him and I said, hey, I'm going to meet all of my BFFs at CMX in a month. And I want to know, like, what work did you have to do before I even got here? And that's really important because there's chance that there's most of you on this call, or a lot of you on this call, have to do this work. Maybe your role became, turned into community, or maybe you don't have your executive sort of laid a little bit of the foundation and then left. I mean, there's so many things. These are the 4 steps that Iran took in order to get leadership. So Amit Bendov, our CEO, our CMO, Udi Lettergore, and the rest of the leadership team on board with community. So he did 4 things. The first was launch community discovery. And this for him was like a semi-hiring, semi-learning process. This took 9 months. For him, this was about like, what is community? What does it do? Like, why are people doing it? Like, what is a successful company? Just learning, right? This is what you're doing in this masterclass now. Like, is this valuable to me? Does this make sense for the business? And so he had to take that 50,000 foot perspective and understand that from other chief customer officers and other community leaders. Do we have enough customers to make this happen? Do we have the right team internally? All of that beautiful business. So that is very, very important. The second thing was getting feedback from the rest of the executive leadership team on investment and branding of the community. Like, is this an initiative that we all want to take on? Because it's not just going to be in the success organization, in the customer organization where it currently lives. This is going to be something where Nisha is going to be going, before there was a Nisha, but Nisha is going to be going around to the marketing team, to the sales team, to the product team, and asking for a whole heck of a lot of stuff. And if the leaders aren't on board, then it's not going to be successful. And so they made a concerted effort, and they made a choice, and they said, all right, once we have a hypothesis that once we get enough of a particular persona that we know is going to use the community and it will be useful to them, then that's when we want to launch a community program and then build the actual community. And then comes like budget and logistics and collaboration between the teams. And then, of course, like rallying around just like, what is that number one priority? And at Gong, that was making Gong community part of a best-in-class customer experience. Okay, so a lot of you here are like, well, I don't have an Iran. What am I supposed to do? And I feel you. I'm here for you, because I asked Iran this question. I said, I think that there's going to be a lot of folks that weren't lucky enough to have you, but are passionate about community, that are passionate about their company, and they want to make sure that they lay great foundations at the executive level. What can they do? Here is 3 things. The first is always tie back to your company goals. So we all know in the community world, there's all sorts of things that you can do with the community. We listen, you hang on to Erica Cole's every word, David Spinks's every word, and you're like, I want to do all these things for my community. But the one thing that you can do besides emulating some of the best is think about your own business and what the community can provide in order to impact the business on a broader scale. So every company has OKRs, V2 moms, top 3 goals, and just think about, okay, what can community do? How can I tie into those goals? And then while also simultaneously be building the community using best practices of those favorite people that we know and love. Okay. So yeah, show the value, like make sure that you are also both showing that value quantitatively and qualitatively. So conversationally explaining when someone's like, yeah, I thought that this was really amazing. These are the 3 reasons why. Make sure to share that. And then also make sure quantitatively to be tracking sort of those metrics. And then just learn from everyone that you do. Don't be afraid to make mistakes or to do things differently. Iran had mentioned that when I launched the community, I didn't just first of all, I didn't turn everything on that was possible in Incited, because that could drive you, as my dad likes to say, it can drive one daffy. So because there's so many different features that you can use with Incited. So there's all the stuff that Incited can do. There's all the stuff that internally people want to do. And then there's all these things that your customers actually want. So when we're MVPing something, especially when we're thinking about 72 days or 90 days, you really can't boil the ocean. And it's just one person, it's just you. So you really gotta, keep it small. Keep it small, superstar. Ooh, there's another KISS. So just keep it small and be small and mighty. And so what I did was when I interviewed all of our customers, or like, I think I picked 30 customers, and I asked, like, what do you want in a community? Almost every single one of them said, I want to be able to find a way to connect one-on-one with people that are exactly like me. And I knew Incited didn't have that like baked into the platform, which is okay. But I knew that, my friend Bradley at Meetsy was actually building something where it was basically a donut-like functionality, if you've ever used that in Slack, that would connect people one-on-one to each other. And that was the biggest hit of the community. And it still is. We've had over 150 meetings or so of people talking to each other one-on-one. And that was just because I listened and I just rolled that out in a few simple things and Incited. Okay, wow, I'm going a lot slower than I thought. So I'm just going to keep going. You've all seen like screenshots of like how to build a launch plan. This is actually a slide that I shared during my interview process at Gong. Like, this is what I want to do. In May, I want to plan and prepare. In June, I want to implement and build this. And in July, I want to launch. And this is exactly what I did. It feels like a lot, but you can do it. I did it. You can definitely do it. Okay, so laying the foundation, we already talked a little bit about this, but figuring out who your core team is. For me, I needed buy-in from folks in product and sales and marketing, different groups in success. I identified leaders in each of those different areas, and I asked them to join the Bulldog team meeting that I had every other week and up until the launch of the community. And what I did in those meetings was just simply explain, this is what I did this week. It was basically like a stand up for myself. So if you follow Scrum methodology, you always do, well, this is what I've done. And this is what I plan to do. And these are some blockers that I have. And this is where people get excited, is when they have a chance to help you. So that at that point, I would say, hey, product team, I need this. Hey, support team, I need this. Hey, marketing team, this is the content that I need from you. And that's what I did. And so, of course, also thinking about like the tools that you need and laying the framework on how you want to get things done. Actually, let me go back here because there is something, I don't know if I put these in the slides, but I did want to share my methodology on, oh no, it's coming, never mind. We'll keep going. Okay, go on an interview spree. So this should all happen. And by the way, the reason you'll see that this is not like day 7 through 20, day 20 through 25, all of the days overlap with each other because that's what you have to do. We're not building this community waterfall method. We're building this agile method. We're shipping and iterating and fixing things. And we're multitasking, but we're doing it in an organized way so that we can launch very quickly. So 2 kinds of interviews you need to do. The first is interview your customers or potential community members. So you need to know, is there a community product fit? So like, does my company actually need a community or community market fit? So like the community meetup group that I was running for fun, is there just like an interest of people in general in the market that they actually would come to my meetup group? So you really want to establish that. And you do that by talking to that persona. So if you've ever done any sort of like persona workshop, or if you're not in marketing and you want to learn more about how to understand who the persona would be, just like go to Google, type in like how can I figure out like the right persona, or build a persona map, a persona journey, or just ask some of your marketing folks about it, and they'll be happy to share that with you. and find five to 10 of those people and get on a call with them and have a list of 5 questions. And those questions should basically be like, if I'm thinking about building this community thing, what does that mean? Are you part of any communities? Would this be interesting to you? And if you were to join, what would that look like? And then we already talked about your community board of advisors. So make sure simultaneously as you're having those conversations that you're also talking to your community board of advisors. Okay. Step 3, roadshow time. So this is like one of the first things that I started doing. I already had day 1 at Gong at the company. Like I already had a deck that I had presented to the panel to interview about, this is what I want to do. And you all saw that one slide, and I actually had several other slides, including an entire slide about spaces. And I even messaged David Spinks. I'm like, thank you so much, David. You like helped me get this amazing dream job, but I'll go into that in a second. And with this roadshow, you basically just make a master deck. If you are in community and you don't have a master deck yet, don't worry, but it is very important to have one. Every major function of any business has a deck that has all of these slides that explain like who you are to the business, why you're important, what are your goals, what you're looking to achieve, what does it look like? I mean, sometimes I've seen master decks that are literally 100 slides long. And basically, based on whoever it is that you're talking to, you just know, I just need these 4 slides. I just need these 5 slides. And you can just pull from that master deck. And so anytime when I went on a roadshow and I made a list, I would go through our org and I'd say, all right, I need to talk to Chris Orlob on the CAE team. Okay, I need to talk to Jameson Young on our sales team. I made a list of every single person that I wanted to talk to, get buy-in. And I had like a spreadsheet of what I was hoping to achieve from that call. So I was very planned about what I wanted to ask them. Hey, can I get a piece of content from you? Hey, would you consider being a volunteer moderator? Hey, like, I think that your implementation team would be wonderful to have a first group in the community. Do you think you'd be able to run it? Hey, for the soft launch, I'm thinking about doing an AMA. I think you'd be wonderful for that. Would you be interested? So always leave with an ask and always leave them with the material that you pulled from your roadshow deck. And also, I don't believe in long meetings. Everyone is slammed. Everyone's exhausted. So I always ask people for 15 minutes. And when I asked people for 30 minutes, they would give me time slots like 3 weeks away. But if I asked for 15 minutes, almost every single person was able to slot me in that week, like 90% of folks. So 15-minute meetings are really clutch that way. The 4th thing is build a detailed plan. Many of you are like masters and pros at this, like probably an order of magnitude better at this than I am. But what I did was I actually went to In Before the Lock and I looked at their tools. Like Erica Cool and Brian Oblinger, or is it Oblinger? I think it's Oblinger. They have this like the best podcast ever, which was, by the way, like my therapy while I was building the community. I would just listen to what they were saying about certain things. And I would think, oh, I don't know if I thought about that for the community. And so usually when I work, like I'll have like friends or something like in the background. So I still feel like I'm not like alone in my office. But when I was building the community, I was always listening to Erica and Brian. And they have this amazing place for tools. And there's like a community plan and a template and all sorts of things, beautiful things in here. So if you haven't seen this already, like I highly recommend it. You should definitely check it out. I cannot stress this enough. It is important to be organized AF. If you had asked my mom this when I was a kid, she would say, Nisha's not organized at all. But I really had to just like, shape myself and like get organization like into your DNA, because Now you're working cross-functionally with like tens of people and people you might not know very well. And the only way to continue to build credibility is by being hyper organized. And this is my hack for how I built the community. And everybody has their own ways of getting things done, but I wanted to share mine in case it's useful to somebody else on this call. So here's what I did. Because I was an individual contributor at the time, I'm now hiring a community manager. So if you are looking for a community management role, or you know someone that would be a great fit for Gong, please let me know. Would love to meet them. This is what I did. I split up my day 50-50. The first half of my day was all meetings. And the reason I chose like the first 50% of my day was because our product team is in Israel. I was working with Incited and they're based in Amsterdam. Our implementation manager was in New York. It's just easier to meet people in the morning. So basically from like 8 a.m. up until 1 p.m. Pacific time, that's all I did was just meet everyone that I wanted to. In the afternoon, I blocked off time just so that I could do deep work. And this is how I do deep work. I have a very flighty personality. I'm like here and I'm there and I want to do this and I want to do that. And it's very, very difficult for me to stay focused on one thing for a really long time. So what I would do is something called 45-minute blocks. Literally open up a Chrome tab, set a Google timer for 45 minutes. And then I would plan out, I would say, okay, today, Nisha, you're doing 4 blocks. And the 4 blocks are creating a content calendar, making sure that you are like going through, I called it community taskmaster, and all the small things that I'd have to do in the community, I would make a list of those. And I would say, okay, you've got 1 community taskmaster block. You've got 1 block. You promised Iran that you would do an FY21 goal slide. And then finally, you want to set up a preliminary like dashboard in Salesforce. And so I would only give myself 45 minutes to do this. And what that would do is make me focus and also challenge me to get everything done in 45 minutes. This presentation that you're seeing today, I accomplished in 2 45-minute blocks. But it wasn't that easy because I also had a 3rd block that I did as my first block, which was basically outlining what I wanted to say today. So I had already done the thinking for what I wanted it to be, and then I just started executing. And so that's how I plan out my work. 45-minute blocks, works miracles. Community Chronicles was an update that I would do. I would literally do a Loom video every single week as I was building the community. And I would say, hey, everyone, it's Nisha. Just wanted to show you like what I was able to build in the community today. I don't think anyone besides my boss actually watched those videos. But now we have, 50 or maybe even 100 people in Community Chronicles Slack channel, and over a third of the company that's already in the community. And they're actually curious what's happening next. So make sure to have something like that. Community newsletters, and then shout out to Incited, become best friends with your implementation manager. I had Adrienne Tooley at Incited. She was freaking wonderful. And we lost our CSM and she was so gracious. And I was like, please, will you be my CSM until we find a new one? And she was like, sure, no problem. So it's just really important to have someone that will champion you. Launch your company. Like for me, I've heard this in a couple, and I'm now realizing it's 9:46, so I'll speed it up a little bit. But for launch, what I realized is that there is already there might be already some sort of like, marketing launch plan template or something that you can use. Feel free to use that. Go to In Before the Lock tools, like take a look at a launch plan. But what helped me the most was building a comms plan. Was like, how can I make sure that when we launch the Gong community, that is in as many single channels as possible? So how do I rope that into a lot of our marketing efforts? And I actually decided to do something that some folks say like, oh, you probably shouldn't do that. But for me, I actually launched during our company's annual big event that we do once a year called Celebrate. And for me, it was actually really exciting. Like, I was a pivotal part of the keynote. I was actually in the keynote with our CMO. We were able to launch it and get people really excited about it. That meant I got to be in all of the emails. That meant that I had a booth at the conference. We in the community team of one were very, very busy that day, but it was really helpful for me as a team of one to basically piggyback off of marketing that was already happening. And so who knows if this model will continue to work and make sense as the community continues to grow and the teams get bigger. But it did work for the very first time. So I aligned the community launch to this big event. Also before that, I did soft launch too. So anyone that I interviewed in the beginning, I asked them, would you be interested in being part of our soft launch or being on the community founding team? And pretty much everyone said yes. And we had 30 people that basically opted in and gave me feedback about what the community looked like 2 weeks before. I only gave myself 2 weeks because I had already known that it probably wasn't going to change drastically unless there was like a huge bug. By the way, I also had a Slack channel called Community Bugs. So if anyone ever sees anything weird in the community, they just message Community Bugs and let me know, and I'll fix it right away. And I think just like having that hard deadline is very, very important. And when you tack it on to a larger company event, you can't push that back. You have to do it then. And that was also important for me as well. Measure your success, lots of ways to do it. I use Salesforce to build dashboards, excessively thank people. I was actually going to show you this fun video that I made, but I did like a cool Star Wars intro video, thanking every single person at the company that helped build the Gong community. Those were 100 people, and everyone really liked that video. But just continuously thank people, thank them, CC their managers, however you build kudos. In your newsletter, at the very top of my newsletter, I'm always like, thank you to this person who did this thing. And also all the people that posted and asked questions and answered questions in the community that did post, all of that. So always be thanking people. People want to help you. Actually, there is one thing that I didn't put in the slides that I do think is very, very important. The way that I was able to get so many people to help me was not just because like I did these like short and snappy 15-minute meetings that I had already planned and I asked them to do something. I also promised that every single thing that I asked them to do would take no more than 45 minutes. Because why would I ask someone to do something longer than I was willing to do myself? So I would say, listen, if you write this post, all you have to do is just set a timer for 45 minutes. Like, you can do speech to text transcription. You can do a Gong call and copy and paste the transcript into a Google Doc, and I will myself or a content writer will go in and we will fix it for you. So I'm always telling people, I don't want anything that you do for the community to take more than 45 minutes. Otherwise, you're never going to do it again. So that was like one thing that I've always promised everybody that I work with. It's not going to take that long. I refuse. I refuse your work. And then here's the big thing that I don't know if we do a good job at this, but we really should celebrate ourselves. And this is like a really hard thing to do, especially during COVID. And I don't mean like pinging your whole company and like, look how amazing I am and on Slack, but I do mean doing something for you. And maybe that just means booking yourself a full day spa appointment and saying like, I'm going to go to Burke Williams. I'm going to spend the whole day there. And I'm also going to pre-order my favorite cake and I'm going to make sure it's delivered that day. And I'm going to pop a bottle of champagne. Plan it out so that you're excited for when that happens for yourself. And for me personally, and I could have done a little bit of a better job at this, but I did plan out a dinner with my parents and my husband. And that was really, really fun for me. And I'll never forget that dinner. And I remember getting messages from our executive team, how excited they were, just on Slack. And that was just a wonderful celebration for myself, and just, a big milestone in your own personal career and your own journey. So make sure to plan out something fun, whether that's horseback riding or going to, I don't know, maybe you wanted to go to like a racetrack and race. Like, just do something that's just for you. Here are some resources. You can build your own book of resources. Shoot, I thought you would be interested. Like, I made this whole binder of all of the resources. I printed them out from everywhere. Look, here's even CMX. I printed out the industry report, community tips. I have all this vendor collateral, industry reports, books. I read anything that I could get my hands on. I just wanted to make sure that I was giving the community this community the justice that it deserves. And I always take notes, by the way, with Post-it notes. Everything is on here. I've got giant Post-it notes everywhere that I keep, and I review this all the time. So I think that that's really important. Check out David's Spaces framework. And then I also built a framework called Cranes that ladders nicely into the Spaces framework, so that you can measure the day-to-day success of the community and if it's actually laddering up to Spaces. Okay, it's 9:53. I've gone like way over, but questions? Oh, I see David says he wants to know about Cranes. Okay, Q&A. Let me just skip to some backup slides here. So just FYI, because I'm in the success org, I believe it's really important to show the entire customer journey, the customer life cycle, and map the touch points of when someone would be able to actually join the community. So, and participate. So I did that. Ways that we drink our own champagne. Here are Spaces, ode to David. And so what are the KPIs that support this objective, and also our overall company objective. So this is Spaces. You all know and love Spaces. Well, what I did with Cranes was, well, how does this basically feed into this? And so collaborating, this is the daily metric. This is how I prioritize how important it is this, asking and answer questions, getting feedback, industry news, all of that. I'll prioritize it, and I will quantify what that is. So this is Cranes, in case you're curious. And
that is epic.
Hearing.
I'm gonna have to spend more time with Cranes, but I don't have time to do that now because you have a whole bunch of good questions here.
Oh, good.
We got 6 minutes and looks like 8 or 9 questions. So we're gonna go rapid fire. We'll do quick answers. And we'll see if we get through them all. Maybe we can if we can go a minute or two over, see if we get to all of it. All right, first questions from Yvette. As a nonprofit organization, we had a couple questions here from folks who work in nonprofits. Can you advise or speak about the kind of incentives we can offer to attract folks from the community building industry as volunteers or interns?
Ooh, let me think about that one. That's a good one. I mean, and David, you might have a better answer than me, but if there are people that, I mean, I volunteer with the Red Cross, and there's a lot of people that like to do leadershipy networking, building events and doing those things as part of their service. Folks that are already doing PR and comms, people that have a marketing background, spend some time on LinkedIn and see who are your volunteers that have related sort of roles.
Great. Yeah, great advice. I think community professionals are really good at a lot of this stuff. So the basics are very easy for them, right? I volunteered for a 3-on-3 tournament recently, and they're you can create the Google form for people to sign up. I was like, yeah, that's going to take 5 seconds. And small things were able to help in a big way. So just ask. I think a lot of community professionals are interested in volunteer opportunities. All right. Tom Volts asked, what are the pros and cons of having a community website open to everyone versus only for customers, or some sort of middle ground? I see some where as a non-member you can read but not participate.
Yeah, and so the Gong made a choice. So like before I joined, the idea was Iran had this idea that how do we enhance the customer experience and how can we make the customer experience the best? And so I think that the model that Gong chose had already decided in advance that this was going to be a customer community. I think it depends on the objective that your company is trying to achieve, and this ladders up to what are those 3 goals for the company. And if one of those goals is and for Gong, it was one of those goals was let's build a best-in-class customer experience, and the community initiative was born from that top line goal. So think of it from that lens, and maybe it makes sense to do a public or a hybrid community.
Love it. All right, next question's from Milena Mason. What is the difference between community bulldog team and community advisors?
Ooh, okay. So the bulldog team is your internal folks. So people in product and in marketing and sales, those anyone that is not in your org that's going to help you launch the community. And then your community board of advisors is your external people. These are your friends that are not at your company that will help you out whenever you need something. So whenever I'm like, oh, like I have a random legal question, or how did you deal with XYZ, like I'll ping Jordan Scott from Airtable and she'll message me back, or I'll call Jessica Langston at Salesforce. Like those are my people, or Ben or Adam from Docebo. Like I have a group of people that I like to ask questions to, because I don't know everything and I know that I don't know everything.
I love it. And I once asked Erica Cool at Salesforce how she was so successful, and she said, I'm a bulldog. So I don't know, I'm sensing a theme here. Maybe community managers, so like embodying bulldogs helps us feel stronger and like unstoppable or something. So
oh my God. And Jordan Scott is on this call too. I didn't know she was here. This is amazing. I love you, Jordan.
You have a lot of fans here in the chat, a lot of folks who worked with you in the past. So
oh my God, that's so great.
The fan club is here.
Oh my God.
All right, next question's from Benjamin Aronov. Community Hub is often used interchangeably with a company's online community. But in reality, it's just a piece. How do you define a relationship between your community hub and other platforms? How do you prioritize your work across all the different platforms?
I mean, I think this is something that everyone's still struggling to like figure out the perfect balance. And so for me, like when I pull up our main homepage, like I actually have a header that brings people to, some people have a philosophy that like once you're in the community, we don't want you to leave. But because I'm coming from it at a customer lens, if there's information that you can find outside of the community, I want you to go there because I want you to get what you need. So in the header, I will literally have a tab for Help Center, for the Academy. Once we might launch other things, then we'll have that there as well. So
yeah, I love that. It reminds me advice that Marius Chortat, he's a chief community officer at IBM, had in my interview with him recently, where he said being member centric or user centric rather than company centric. So like do what's best for the customer, even if you can't perfectly track everything or it's not ideal from a company perspective, but if it's good for the members, it's a different mentality to take. I know we're at time. Do you have a few more minutes to go through a few more questions?
I definitely do.
Okay, cool. For those of you who want to stick around, we'll see if we can get through as many of these as possible.
Thank you for joining.
Hanifa asked, what will the executive foundation process for a nonprofit community look like? Because community is already a yes.
That's a good question. I think really it's just getting all nonprofits still have a board, and all nonprofits also still have an executive team that's at, and I'm just pulling from my own experience, but there is still a CEO that runs the chapter. So like really making sure that they're aligned with your strategy is important, and just tell them, this is what I want to do. Go to the next board meeting and ask for 10 minutes. They'll give you time. There's always time.
Awesome. You're getting a lot of love for the binder here. I was very impressed with the binder.
Oh, the binder. Yes, it's very 1990s. I wish it was like a Lisa Frank binder and I had like a unicorn and like a rainbow, but that's okay. This one will have to do.
It's incredible. I absolutely love it. Okay, next question. How many community platforms do you look into before deciding on Insided?
I probably looked at between 5 to 7. So while I know that Gong was doing its diligence, I was also on my own, like having conversations with and meeting other platforms. So I mean, you don't want not too many, but it's important to have an idea of what they'll be able to provide. But I also genuinely believe that a good community manager can use almost any tech stack, and be good at their job. They might have to extend their stack or spend more money or do something a little bit differently. And it does take time to actually, eventually like having to port things over. But I would just say go with your gut. And if you're good at your job and you get the right people and rally the right people, it'll be amazing. I promise you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next question is my question. It got a lot of votes, so I'm going to ask it. Would you ever recommend doing the interview spree before seeking executive buy-in? Do those kinds of interviews help with executive buy-in, or do you think it doesn't really matter to execs that much?
Yeah. So Iran did the Step Zero Executive Foundation was built by Iran, and that's what he did. He was already talking to his executive team and other executives at other companies about how community has impacted their companies and their broader goals. So what I basically, when I joined, I basically did the same thing, but from my perspective at my level.
Got it. Awesome. All right. Question from Ben. How did you determine the type of seed content you used for your launch?
I knew that I needed 3 pieces of content for every section that I had. I also wanted to make sure that it was a mix of thought leadership, that it had really great persona content, and also that it was fun and actionable as well. And so while I was having conversations with people during my listening tour, or when I was meeting people in those 15-minute meetings for the first time, then I would always ask, hey, by the way, this sounds like it would be really fun for the community. I seeded that with so many people. And a lot of folks were like, yeah, this sounds cool. And some people would be like, this is the most amazing thing ever. Like Nadine Jubran, who's on as SDR manager, was like, I would love to write a piece for you about what it means to be an SDR manager. And she wrote a great piece and people loved it. So really, it's just who is willing to do the work, and did it map somewhat to the framework that I had in mind.
Awesome. Got it. Ujing asked, do you have any advice to show the importance of user research when your manager is emphasizing rapid growth?
User research. And I think this is where personas come in, is really understanding who are the personas you're going after, doing a persona mapping, persona journey, your user journey. I mean, I probably would need to know a little bit more about what exactly your manager is trying to do, but or what they would want. But basically, at a high level, if you're already planning on doing the work and you know that this is something that they want, find a way to showcase the work that you're doing ladders into this user research that they're requiring. And if that makes sense, but I'm happy to chat offline if that didn't make sense.
Awesome. We'll see if we can keep going here. I think people keep adding questions now, so I think we went through the first 8.
I can't believe people are still on the call.
Oh yeah, we still got 80 people here. 79. One person didn't like my joke there. Okay. John Thompson asked, a community requires commitment from all parties involved, but fear of failure is a real problem. How do you help others overcome these types of fears?
You have to be confident, so confident that it's going to work. Like, you are going to brute force this. This is your passion. You're so excited. And when you exude confidence and you exude energy, then people know, they believe in you. And then once you actually launch the community, then they're like, oh, this person really put their money where their mouth is. And I think that's really important, is just exude confidence. And the way that you're confident is when you are comfortable with the content and your plan. And that's why it's so important to be organized and focused. And I share that framework, is when people see that you have this super strong plan in place, then they're like, well, there's no way this person is going to fail. Like, they have like 100 people that are cheering them on, and I'm one of those people.
Love it. And you need a Leslie Knope binder.
Yes, you need a Leslie. Oh my gosh, Leslie Knope binder. Oh my God. I can't believe I made a Leslie Knope binder.
You should be very proud. Okay.
American flag pen, or like I love Joe
you
Biden.
Need a Gong pin. You know, keep it on brand.
Yeah.
All right. Suzanne asked, is your community a browser-based application or mobile, or both?
It's both. It works on the browser and a mobile. Inside it.
Is it an mobile app, or just mobile?
It's not an app. It's just like mobile friendly.
Got it. Awesome. I like this question from Bridget. Nisha, you rock. So inspiring. You did all this stuff as a team of one. I also inherited a team of one. So working on growth plan while providing lots of hands-on support. Question is, will your first hire be a generalist or have a specific focus?
Ooh, good question. I'm looking for a Jack or Jill of all trades. So definitely someone generalist, but someone that has experience with community management, a few years of online community management, and experience running some program end to end. Doesn't necessarily have to be community, but it can be community adjacent. And I was always in a community adjacent space, by the way. I was always in a marketing function, but I knew intrinsically how to build these communities, because I had already been doing it. And not realizing that's what it was I was doing. But yes, I'll stop there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rohit asked, how to identify the community board of advisors? Is there a skill set required to identify them? Someone from a community background or relationship building?
Yeah, Rohit, I think this is a good question, because it depends on what it is that you need. So for me, I was looking for someone a group of people that maybe had been running sales communities before. Maybe someone had used Incited as a platform before. Maybe somebody who I believe was really interesting in the thought leadership space, or has done different things. Or honestly, just people that were willing to have a conversation with me and that wanted to help. And I got introduced to Nadia Vieira from LinkedIn through Stephanie Pellegrino, who's our head of education and training, and she was like wonderful to share ideas with early on. So just think about like, hey, what are the gaps that I have, and who can I talk to? And Molly Aronce from Facebook, like, she's done some really cool stuff, and I basically asked people who I thought were awesome and that were way better than me at different things. And I just asked them if they would just give me some advice. I didn't ask them, will you be on my community board of advisors? They probably don't even know that I have this Post-it note, but I do hit them up every once in a while, because they're that special and important.
You should let them know.
Yes, I will.
You inspired me to ask in the CMX community, in the Facebook group and Slack, who people's personal board of advisors are, because I bet everyone has like their go-to group, and maybe that group doesn't know it.
You know what I'm going to do is I will make them a badge that they can then put on LinkedIn and be like, I am on Nisha's.
That's thinking like a community manager. Gamify it. They should each get a binder, a signed binder.
A signed binder. Oh my God, no one wants.
I love it. All right, just a few more. There's still more coming in, but I'm going to cut it off at anyone who asked after the last 27 minutes. Yvette asked, any advice on how to relaunch a dormant community? She's specifically interested on LinkedIn platform. How to use user engagement to migrate to another platform?
Oh my God, I don't know.
Have you done a
That's
migration before?
I've never done a migration. That sounds really difficult. David, do you know folks that have done a successful migration or
Yeah, there are a
built a
lot of,
nascent
it's a very
community?
common question in the CMX community. So yeah, I'd recommend going into the CMX Slack and Facebook and asking people for feedback in there. Lots of folks have gone through migration, and it's kind of like relaunching a community. You're going to want to start from scratch in a way.
Yeah, like just honestly, there's at least 2 or 3 people that you know that really want the group to happen, and just find out who those people are and just talk to them and see if they can help drum up a little bit of, you know, that excitement and growth again.
Totally. Holly asked, well, she said she wants to see the cranes chart to use again. Is that published anywhere that people can take a look?
I didn't publish it, but I wonder if I can I take a screenshot and just like put it in here?
Sure. Yeah,
Here.
you can share. I would recommend maybe sharing it in the CMX Slack and in the Facebook group as
Okay, yeah,
well.
I can do that.
If you're down too, maybe we can even publish an article with it on
Oh,
CMX, make it
yeah,
accessible to the
yeah.
community that way.
Actually, Michael Disraeli saw this a while ago and he was like, Nisha, you should publish. You need to write a post. And I was like, okay. And then I forgot all about it until just now. So maybe I'll do that.
All right, we'll
Yeah.
follow up on that one. That'll be a great article. Are you open to sharing the deck? Gene Key asked.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. We'll see how we can get that to everyone who came to the event. Danny Brinkley asked, this was great. When you discussed your advisory board, do you use only internal advisors or did you reach out to senior folks at customers as well? Like, do you have a customer advisory board going?
Well, we do have a customer advisory board that's run by our customer marketing team. But it's it's never a perfect, like you are in this board and you're in this board. I think there are a lot of people that are in my community board of advisors that also happen to be customers, which is also really helpful. So yeah, I think, it's a good question, but really for me, establishing the community board advisors was more about me looking inward and knowing what skills that I don't have. Never moderated an online community day to day. Are there people that have done this at scale really well? So I called Josh from Chainlink, who has done this, and he advises me on this stuff all the time. So think
Awesome.
about that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for the Q&A. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you, Nisha, for being a champ and crushing through all those questions. Clearly, you had people very engaged, and everything in this talk was so practical and actionable. I took away a bunch of things that I want to immediately start thinking about for our team as well. So,
Really, like what? That's cool.
I think like one thing that stood out to me is the communication. Just like your 50% communication really stood out to me, because it's like, I posted in the chat, I think it's unique to community that we have to do a lot more in communicating than most other jobs. Like engineers are like, we built the product, here's the product. Community, you have to kind of over communicate, and we do a lot, but even having like a metric of time, like spend at least as much time communicating what you're doing, pushing that information out, making sure people are aware. That was something that really jumped out at me.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
And I need a binder.
We all need a binder.
Yeah. There are a couple others, but I'm going to have to go back through the talk. The recording will be available for everyone. I think we'll get it out in the next week or two. Ivan can confirm. Otherwise, Nisha, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your time and just being all around incredible.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it. And thank you for this opportunity, CMX and David and Beth and the wonderful team, Ivan and the wonderful team.
Absolutely. Always. You are always welcome back.
All righty. Have a great day, everyone. Plan the work, work the plan.
Thanks again, Nisha. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Yeah, I love that. Plan the work, then work the plan. I'm gonna have to write that on my mirror or something. But just as a reminder, before you all go, October 27th, the CMX Unconference half-day event, and November 11th from 12 to 1, our masterclass on how to balance community growth with engagement. 2 incredible events coming up, and we have a lot more coming. We have some really exciting events in the works that we haven't quite announced yet. So if you're not already in the CMX community, go to cmxhub.com/community. You could join our Facebook group, our Slack. Make sure you're subscribed to CMX Weekly, our weekly newsletter where we send out resources and newsletters and information about upcoming events and everything that we have going on. Lots coming up in the CMX community. Appreciate you all for being here, and we'll see you next time.